the Defensive Player of the Year, was supposed to celebrate himself. Instead, he crowned his quarterback. When Myles Garrett walked off stage at NFL Honors holding that trophy, the spotlight was his. Cameras flashing, analysts praising, legacy moment secured. But what happened next is what has the entire Cleveland Browns fan base buzzing. He didn't head to a private party. He didn't soak in the attention. He went looking for the rookie. Backstage on the same weekend as Shedeur Sanders' birthday, Garrett handed him a custom Audemars Piguet watch engraved with 2 simple letters and a number, QB1. Let that sink in. A Defensive Player of the Year, publicly labeling a 5th-round rookie as QB1. And if that wasn't loud enough, Garrett doubled down. He hit Shedeur's signature wrist celebration on camera, the exact move that represents my time. For a stoic, franchise cornerstone known for quiet dominance, that gesture wasn't random. It was deliberate. Now hear why this matters. NFL locker rooms don't work like social media. Veterans don't just hand out validation, especially not to rookies who walked in with hype, criticism, and the weight of a famous last name. Especially not to someone critics labeled a Nepo story before he ever took a snap. So why did Garrett do it? Was it loyalty? Was it leadership? Or was it a signal to the entire league that Cleveland's power structure just shifted? Because insiders are now dissecting more than just the watch's estimated 6-figure price tag. They're dissecting the message behind it. And to understand why that moment might be bigger than jewelry, we have to rewind to draft night, when everything looked very different. He wasn't supposed to be there on day 3. Coming out of college, Shedeur Sanders was projected by many analysts as a high pick. Some saw first-round upside. Others debated his ceiling. But almost nobody predicted a slide deep into the draft. Then it happened. Round after round passed, cameras cut elsewhere. The conversation shifted from where will he land to what went wrong. The critiques came fast. Arm strength questions, system quarterback whispers, and of course, the loudest narrative of all that his last name carried more weight than his tape. Being the son of Deion Sanders meant the spotlight never blinked. For some, that spotlight turned into skepticism. By the time Cleveland called his name, the storyline had already formed. Talented, yes, but humbled. Except when he arrived in the building, that's not what teammates saw. He didn't walk in defeated. He didn't carry himself like a late-round afterthought. Reports from inside camp described focus, energy, quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't beg for validation. And that's when something interesting happened. While the outside world debated whether he belonged, one voice inside the locker room went the opposite direction. That voice belonged to Myles Garrett. Instead of staying neutral, instead of offering generic rookie development quotes, Garrett stepped up publicly. He didn't wait for preseason highlights. He didn't wait for wins. He told the media they were underestimating the kid. That's not common. Veterans protect the culture. They don't gamble their credibility lightly, especially not the face of the franchise. But Garrett saw something. And what he saw would eventually turn a birthday gift into a statement. But before the watch, before the viral clip, there was an even bigger moment that quietly flipped the locker room dynamic. Veterans usually stay in their lane. They focus on their side of the ball. They let coaches coach. They let rookies earn stripes quietly. That's the unspoken code inside most NFL locker rooms. But Myles Garrett didn't follow that script. As criticism around Shedeur Sanders grew louder, Garrett did something rare. He challenged the narrative publicly. In interviews, he made it clear that the 5th-round label didn't match what he was seeing in practice. He talked about work ethic, timing, composure. And when analysts kept pushing the idea that Shedeur was overhyped, Garrett didn't soften his stance. He basically said the league got it wrong. That carries weight. This isn't just any teammate. This is the defensive player of the year, the emotional anchor of the franchise, the guy who's been the Browns' most consistent star for years. When he says, "You're underestimating this kid," the room listens. And hear why that mattered. Inside any NFL building, perception spreads fast. If veterans hesitate, rookies feel it. If leaders doubt, it creates distance. But when the captain signals belief early, it changes everything. Suddenly, the rookie is the coach's experiment. He's part of the core. Now, some fans have speculated that Garrett's vocal support even added subtle pressure on the coaching staff to give the rookie more opportunity. There's no confirmed friction, no official dispute, but online chatter definitely picked up. People began wondering whether caution was slowing down potential. Garrett never framed it as rebellion. He framed it as urgency. And then came the move that took his support from words to symbolism. Because backing a rookie in interviews is one thing. Handing him a six-figure watch engraved QB1, that's a whole different level. Jewelry in the NFL isn't new. Big contracts come with big flexes. Chains, watches, custom pieces, that's part of the culture. But this wasn't a self-purchase celebration. This was a defensive player of the year buying something for someone else. And not just anyone. Myles Garrett gifted Shedeur Sanders a custom Audemars Piguet, engraved with 3 letters that hit harder than the diamonds around it. QB1. That engraving wasn't subtle. QB1 isn't a nickname, it's a declaration, it's depth chart hierarchy, it's leadership status, it's the guy. Now, jewelry analysts online have estimated that a custom Audemars Piguet that could easily sit in the high 6-figure range, depending on model and customization. No official price was released, but even conservative estimates put it above the rookie contracts of some late-round players. That's not just generosity. That's a statement. And then Garrett did something even more symbolic. On camera, holding his defensive player of the year energy, he hit Shedeur's signature wrist gesture, the "my time" move that became part of his identity from college to the pros. Think about that. A franchise defensive captain publicly mimicking the rookie quarterback's celebration. That's alignment. That's unity. That's a veteran saying, "I'm riding with you." In a league where ego can fracture locker rooms, this felt intentional, almost strategic. Some fans even interpreted it as a message to the rest of the building, and maybe even to the league, that the offense now has a centerpiece. But here, where things get interesting. Because symbolism only matters if performance backs it up. And once Shedeur finally stepped into meaningful action, the narrative started shifting again. Belief is powerful. But in the NFL, belief has to survive contact. When Shedeur Sanders finally got real reps, all the talk stopped. No more draft debates. No more Nepo chatter. Just reads, throws, pressure, results. And this is where things started to click. The ball came out fast. Decisions looked composed. Timing felt sharp. Not perfect, no rookie ever is, but controlled, confident. The kind of rhythm that makes veterans nod quietly instead of clap loudly. And standing on the other side of that daily practice battlefield was Myles Garrett, one of the most disruptive pass rushers in football. Think about that dynamic for a second. If you can process under pressure against Garrett in practice, game speed feels different. If you can adjust to his edge rush, most defensive fronts won't surprise you. Garrett even publicly acknowledged the timing, the precision, the way the ball arrived where it needed to be. When a player who chases elite quarterbacks like Mahomes and Burrow for a living praises your mechanics, that endorsement isn't casual. It's earned. And here, what teammates reportedly started noticing. Instead of intimidating the rookie, Garrett leaned into mentorship. During drills, he'd point out tendencies, explain angles, show hand usage, almost like he was teaching him how to pass the test by being the test. That's iron sharpening iron. And that kind of relationship doesn't form overnight. It forms through shared pressure, through mutual respect, through long days when cameras aren't around. But this story isn't just about mechanics. It's about perception. Because once performance met belief, the narrative inside Cleveland began shifting. And for the first time in years, the Browns didn't just have a dominant defender. They might have had a foundation. The biggest criticism was never his mechanics. It was his last name. Being the son of Deion Sanders meant Shedeur Sanders walked into the league with a spotlight already burning. For some fans, that spotlight automatically translated to privilege. He had it easy. He's Hollywood. He's entitled. That kind of label can poison a locker room if it sticks. NFL veterans respect grind. They respect scars. They respect players who earn it. If they sense entitlement, they shut down quickly. But according to multiple interviews and team reports, that's not what Garrett saw. Myles Garrett repeatedly described him as upbeat, focused, coachable, a guy who listens more than he talks, someone who stays after practice instead of rushing out for cameras. That matters, because when the most respected voice in the building vouches for your character, the whispers fade, offensive linemen buy in, receivers lean closer in the huddle, defensive guys stop rolling their eyes at hype. Garrett didn't just praise his arm, he praised his attitude. And that's harder to fake. Inside Cleveland, that endorsement reportedly changed how quickly teammates rallied. Instead of seeing a famous last name, they saw a teammate grinding through criticism and earning reps. That's how culture shifts happen. Quietly at first, then all at once. But here's the bigger picture. For years, the Cleveland Browns have been defined by quarterback instability, rotating starters, lost seasons, defensive dominance wasted by offensive inconsistency. Garrett has carried that weight for nearly a decade. And now, for the first time, it looks like he might not have to carry it alone. That's why the watch wasn't random. It wasn't about ice. It was about belief in a future where defense and offense finally move in sync. And that possibility changes everything. For years, hope in Cleveland started and ended with one name: Myles Garrett. He was the constant, the game wrecker, the face of resilience during seasons that slipped away. No matter who lined up at quarterback, Garrett carried the emotional weight of the franchise. But something feels different now. When he handed that watch to Shedeur Sanders engraved QB1, it wasn't just praise. It was almost symbolic, like a quiet passing of responsibility, not surrendering leadership but sharing it. And that's huge, because a dominant defense can keep you competitive. An elite quarterback can change your ceiling. Garrett understands that better than anyone. When the offense sustains drives, the defense stays fresh. When points go up early, pass rushers hunt with freedom. A confident quarterback doesn't just elevate receivers, he energizes the entire roster. That's why some insiders believe this partnership could unlock something Cleveland hasn't felt in a long time: balance. Garrett has spoken about the hunger of the younger players, the urgency, the energy shift inside the building. And while no one is declaring a Super Bowl run publicly, fans are connecting dots. Defense secured, offense emerging, leadership aligned. That combination is dangerous in the AFC North. But here's the part that makes this story even stronger. This wasn't orchestrated by a PR team. It wasn't a forced marketing campaign. There were no staged speeches, just a genuine moment between a 28-year-old veteran and a young quarterback stepping into pressure most rookies never face. In a league that can feel transactional, that kind of bond stands out. And when respect is built like that, in practice, In interviews, in private conversations, it doesn't fade quickly. Which brings us to the final question. Was this just a birthday gift? Or was it the beginning of something much bigger in Cleveland? At first glance, it was just a watch. A luxury piece, a flashy headline, another viral NFL moment. But when you zoom out, it was something deeper. Myles Garrett didn't just celebrate his Defensive Player of the Year award. He used that spotlight to elevate Shedeur Sanders. That's intentional leadership. In a league where rookies are often told to stay quiet and earn their place slowly, Garrett accelerated the process. He publicly stamped his approval. He mirrored the celebration. He engraved the message. QB1. Not maybe. Not developing. Not one day. QB1. And when the most respected player in your locker room makes that call, it carries more weight than any draft analysis ever could. Now, does that guarantee championships? Of course not. The NFL doesn't hand out trophies for chemistry. Performance still decides everything. But culture matters. Belief matters. Alignment matters. For years, the Cleveland Browns were defined by instability at quarterback. Now, for the first time in a long time, the defensive anchor of the franchise is openly embracing the offensive future. That changes the energy inside the building. It changes how teammates respond in tight moments. It even changes how opponents prepare. Because when defense and quarterback are unified, momentum builds faster. So maybe this wasn't about jewelry at all. Maybe it was about a veteran recognizing something in a rookie that reminded him of himself: pressure, expectation, criticism, and choosing to stand beside him instead of watching from a distance. And when the captain crowns the quarterback, the entire league takes notice.